Hey, I'm Mark. Let's go. Get in here. We got learning to do. What? Have you been thinking again? Man, you are all trick and no treat. Hey, shut the mouths, books down, close the door. I'm a history teacher, and I'm going rogue. Hey, speaking of trick or treat, how many times has this guy shown up at your door? Or at your Halloween party? A little extra almond joy in your goodie basket. Of course, that's Count Dracula, one of the most celebrated characters in Gothic horror. I know, for Halloween, let's take a look at one of the greatest, most enduring characters of the horror genre. Let's look at Dracula. And the historical Vlad Dracula, which he might or might not have been based upon. Let's go rogue. In 1897, Irish author Bram Stoker wrote the novel Dracula about a mysterious nobleman from the Carpathian region of Eastern Europe that seeks to move to London and invest in real estate. Real estate, man, that's where the money is. Real estate agent John Harker meets Dracula at his castle in Transylvania, while the title character sees a picture of Mina, his fiancée, who looks very much like a long-lost love of his. Dracula imprisons his guest, then goes to London. While in London, Dracula attacks a girl named Lucy, who becomes sick from Dracula's attacks. Mina Murray, a friend of Lucy's, who also is Jonathan's fiancée, calls upon Dr. Seward, a former lover of Lucy's, to care for her. When Seward cannot cure Lucy, he consults Dr. Van Helsing, who diagnoses her illness as being caused by a vampire bite. Mina hears news that Harker has been found and is ill, so she leaves Lucy with the doctors to retrieve him in Transylvania. Lucy dies, but not really. She turns into a vampire and begins to attack London's children. So Seward and Van Helsing kill Lucy by driving a stake through her heart. Afterwards, Van Helsing leads Mina, Harker, and Seward on a mission to destroy all of Dracula's coffins, which have been scattered around London. Dracula uses mind control on Mina and threatens to take revenge by killing her. But instead, he returns to Transylvania, where Van Helsing and the others track him down and kill him. So who is the inspiration behind Stoker's Count Dracula? Some suggest that it was an actual historical figure named Vlad Dracula, who lived in 15th century Romania, beyond the Carpathian Mountains. The Balkans, man. Originally, the Romans imposed Catholicism on the region. Then the Byzantines imposed Orthodox Christianity on the region under its control, while other regions remained Catholic. When the Ottomans entered Europe from Turkey, they imposed Islam on the areas they conquered, and by the 1300s, the Balkans are an area of wide diversity, with Catholics hating Orthodox, hating Muslims. And there remained an undercurrent in the Balkans of ancient paganism, with myths and folklore of unholy spirits. For most of 2 millennia, there have been a continual back and forth between national groups and religious groups. People have been doing horrible things to each other for centuries. In 1014, Byzantine leader Basil II, the Bulgar Slayer, defeated the Bulgars, taking 15,000 prisoners, then had 99 of each 100 blinded, leaving the remaining one with one eye to lead the rest back to Bulgaria. When the Ottomans, under Mehmet II, defeated Constantinople in 1453, the Balkans were open to invasion by the Muslim Turks, which they did. And as late as the 1990s, the Bosnians, Croatians, and Serbs were fighting a war of annihilation against each other. It was in this geopolitical situation that Vlad Dracula lived. The character Dracula claims his lineage back to Attila the Hun, the scourge of God, asking, "What devil or what witch has ever so great as Attila, whose blood is in these veins?" Attila was known for his bad temper, his pillaging and destruction of cities, and the mass murder of their inhabitants. In 447, the Byzantines asked him not to invade Constantinople. In return, he asked that deserters from his army be returned to him. They were impaled, run through, and suspended on spikes to die a death that would take up to 2 agonizing days. Vlad Dracula was the son of Vlad II Dracula, a military leader in Wallachia. The title Dracula was granted to Vlad the Elder as a member of the Order of the Dragon, a militant group dedicated to halting Ottoman advances into Europe, created by Sigmund. No. Sigismund, Holy Roman Emperor. Dracula is son of Dracula. Wallachia at the time was a pawn in this constant sparring between the Ottomans and the Hungarians. Upon the death of his father in 1447, he became Vlad III Dracula and assumed the throne of Wallachia, but was soon run out of Wallachia by another contender. In 1456, Vlad Dracula returned to Wallachia and took retribution against those that opposed his ascension to the throne. There are no exact numbers, but it is reported that thousands of people who opposed him were impaled, run through with large stakes. In a second reign of terror, Vlad invaded the neighboring regions of the Ottoman Empire, taking prisoners and executing them. 23,884 Turks and Bulgarians, it was reported, again, by impalement. Another attack on the Ottomans resulted in, according to a contemporary, a forest of impaled, thousands of stakes with the carcasses of executed people. That same report added, when the Sultan's army entered into the area with the impalements, there were large stakes there on which it was said about 20,000 men, women, and children had been spitted. In Romanian, his title was Vlad Tepes, Vlad the Impaler. Vlad's reign of terror eventually came to an end. He was killed in battle against the Ottomans in 1477. His body was cut into pieces, and his head was delivered to the Ottoman leader, Mehmet II. There's little connection between the historical Vlad Dracula and Bram Stoker's Count Dracula. It appears that Stoker only borrowed the Dracula name, along with other information about Romanian history. Stoker spent several years researching Central and Eastern European folklore and mythological stories of vampires. He also consulted with Armin Vembere, a Slovak Jewish writer and traveler from Hungary, who told Stoker dark stories of the Carpathian Mountains before Stoker wrote his book in 1897. Stoker's was not the first work of fiction concerning vampires. The first novel that moved vampires beyond folklore and into modern form was The Vampire by John William Polidori in 1819. The story has a genesis in a retreat attended by Polidori, Lord Byron, and Mary Shelley. Over 3 days, the group sat around telling ghost stories. It was from this retreat that Mary Shelley wrote Frankenstein. Another creation was the character of Lord Ruthven in a novella called The Vampire. Ruthven is an aristocratic vampire that seeks his prey among members of high society. At first, the story was falsely attributed to Lord Byron, which certainly gave it more gravitas, but the book was eventually attributed to Polidori. In the 1820s, a vampire craze was sweeping across Europe, with multiple works of literature like Alexander Dumas's Count of Monte Cristo, many with specific references to Lord Ruthven. In late 1871 and early 1872, Irish author Joseph Sheridan Le Fanu wrote Carmilla, and a serial for a magazine called The Dark Blue. The story recounts a friendship between Laura, the protagonist, and Carmilla, a young woman who stays with Laura's family after a carriage accident. After a string of mysterious deaths of women in a nearby town and the discovery of 2 puncture wounds on Laura's breasts, it is believed that there is a vampire in the region. With the help of a vampire expert, Baron Vordenburg, an imperial commission discovers the name of an older vampire from the region named Marcala. The commission exhumes the grave of Marcala to find the likeness of Carmilla, drenched in blood, breathing slightly, her heart beating and her eyes open. When the team drives a stake through her heart, she screams. Then she's decapitated, burned, and her ashes thrown into a nearby river. It's clear that Stoker borrowed from Carmilla based on similarities between the two. Both are written in the first person. In both, the antagonists have shape-shifting ability. Carmilla changes into a cat, Dracula into a wolf. The descriptions of Laura and Carmilla and Lucy and Dracula are quite similar. And also are the 2 novels' vampire experts, Baron Vordenburg and Abraham Van Helsing. Dracula re-energized the vampire craze in the early 1900s, perfect for a new medium, the movie theater. Now, instead of sitting in a study reading a Gothic horror novel where you can control the lights and can pick it up and put it down whenever you like, now you're stuck in a movie theater, a dark room, in a chair, staring at a screen. You can no longer control the pace of the action controls you. The first version of Dracula to make it to the big screen was an unauthorized version of the book called Nosferatu, released in 1922. Nosferatu was basically ripped off from Stoker with a few name changes. One significant change was that the suave and debonair Count Dracula became Count Orlok, more of a Gollum-looking character. Precious. I mean, it doesn't matter how much room this guy has in his castle. I might try my luck at a forest for the night. That being said, Nosferatu was only shown for one season in Germany as Bram Stoker's family sued the film's makers and a court ordered that every copy be destroyed. Although a couple of copies are still out there. Dracula first made his appearance on the big screen in 1931, played by Bela Lugosi. Lugosi quickly became the prototype horror movie star, playing werewolves, the son of Frankenstein, and other creatures in his more than 50 horror movies. He was cast as vampires again in 1935's Mark of the Vampire, Return of the Vampire in 1943, and Vampire Over London in 1952. He would even reprise his role as Dracula in 1948's Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. Dracula movie is widely regarded as a classic of the era and of its genre. In 2000, it was selected for preservation in the United States National Film Registry by the Library of Congress for being culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant. The movie came in at number 85 on American Film Institute's ranking of 100 Years, 100 Chills. The character of Count Dracula was number 33 on the AFI's list of 100's Heroes and Villains. And in another AFI list, Most Famous Movie Quotes, Dracula comes in at number 83, stating, "Listen to them, children of the night, what music they make." But, as happens with most major movie franchises, Dracula lost his mystique. He became a caricature. In the 1960s TV series The Munsters, preteen Eddie Munster wears Dracula's cape and his widow's peak. Every October, General Mills sells a cereal version of him, Count Chocula, along with his friends Booberry and Frankenberry. A kind of cuddly version of Dracula, the Count, became one of the most beloved characters on Sesame Street. One teleprompter, Count Dracula became most referenced to people on the old Match game. I picture Gene Rayburn asking Charles Nelson Riley to match the contestant. Dracula said, "Today I'm going to Major League Baseball game because today is blank day." The most common match was Bat Day. By the 1990s and 2000s, vampire movies made their way into the American lexicon. Dr. Van Helsing got his own movie. Everyone from teenage girls to our 16th president were slaying vampires. Most recently, that one series with that one girl and that pale guy. Hey, her name was Bella. I wonder if that's in relation to Bela Lugosi. My favorite goes back to 1987 in The Lost Boys, starring Kiefer Sutherland. Now you know what you are, Michael. And you know who you are. You'll live forever, but you've got to feed. But they all got the start with the biggest of the big Gothic horror characters, a dark, suave, and debonair nobleman from Wallachia, Vlad III, Dracula. So happy Halloween! Thanks for stopping by. This was fun. I hope you learned something, got a laugh. If I did it right, you did both. Comment, like, and subscribe. Share on whatever platform you use. I want to thank my producer, Casey Moulton, Mr. Brent Allen, for letting us use his studio here on the campus of Columbia High School. I had fun, but I won't quit my day job. And when you see a 4-foot-tall Dracula walking around your neighborhood on Halloween night, remember, I'm Mark Haggard. I'm a history teacher, and I'm going rogue.